Welcome back, everyone, to the third game here of the UKLC. I'm Maurits Chronicle Milse, joined here by, as per usual, Dan Orks Harrison. I'm subbing in for Jake. He got tired, and in that gave up what I think might be some of the most exciting matches that we're going to have here today.
Yeah, we have
Orks.
the final and the Tower Challenge. I mean, we've already had some pretty hype games. Got to see Jarnen's Heimer, but now we are going into the finals in the Tower Challenge, and we do get to see Fnatic Rising make their summer debut, so I'm hyped.
Because we have no clue. Like, everyone expecting Fnatic, of course, after how well they did last season, how well they performed in general, to come in hot. But I gotta say, Excel, especially after that last game and yesterday as well, they look very methodical.
Yeah, don't give them Heimer ever again.
No.
I feel like it's going to be banned against Diabolus. If they win that, it's going to be banned against Fnatic, and it's going to be banned for the rest of the split because that was brutal.
And on that note, who do you think got MVP here, Orks?
I feel like it might well be Jarnen, but I feel like Special had such a great performance that game because his proactive plays on that TF, he was constantly everywhere he needed to be. I think he did really solid as well, but I mean, Jarnen just... The reason I'm looking at Special is because Jarnen, it's expected. When that guy picks Heimer, you just know he's going to carry. But
it's so obvious. But it can't always be a surprise. The MVP for the last match is, of course, Jarnen on that Heimer thing. As you're saying, don't think we're going to see that again. 717 KDA, 82% kill participation, 9.25 CS per minute.
He has got 100% of XL's MVP so far.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty good.
He's doing pretty good.
You know,
that's safe to say.
It makes sense that he got semi-finals at Worlds. It does. It makes sense. There's really starting to click together. I'm getting it.
Kind of together. And then, of course, there are opponents here because we keep singing praise for Excel. But Diabolus, thus far, have been able to win that first two matches in rather convincing fashion. Although the win against the Mines was a little bit more shaky. And then yesterday, it took them a while.
It took them a while. They definitely got the wins out. But I think going into this next matchup, they are absolutely underdogs. I think XL are playing really strong. That's not to say Diabolus aren't, but I think such a stacked roster, they're going to have to bring everything if they want to take this next game.
I'll take another look at the bracket here, as we've seen Diabolus take on Phelan and Demise, now facing off against XL, and of course, XL beating out Barrage yesterday and Eminem today in convincing fashion, and the winner of these two of the next match is going to take on Fnatic, as you were saying, and that's also going to be incredibly hard because we don't know. We haven't seen Fnatic for such a long time. They've swapped up their roster as Dan is living up in the LEC. As we take a look at some of the highlights here, and the Demise against the Diabolus game, it wasn't quite as one-sided as how when we saw Demise play against Envision. Yeah. But still, Diabolus, for the most part, felt very in control.
Yeah, there's a bit of time where they got some momentum back. I mean, this is one of the big team fights where they found it. Voxnay popping off on this Kaiser. But Diabolus, they had the really strong early game from PFI. He needs to make a performance like that again, where he impacts the map and makes things happen. I think I'm going to be looking at the solo laners once again. Cannon Fury, very strong players. And we saw Sendo, although later on he scaled up, did struggle a bit against only Angel.
You know how we call Fury in the Netherlands? It's Vuurei. You know what that means?
Thank you. What does it mean?
Fire egg.
Fire egg?
Fire egg.
And from a fire egg comes a phoenix.
Yeah, and we don't have a Phoenix. I mean, Aatrox revives, but that's pretty much it, isn't it?
I mean, Anivia's a Phoenix.
She's a
Phoenix.
frozen. Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
we had got me there. That's why you
me and Jake had this discussion yesterday. Yeah,
about Anivia. Yeah, because she was picked, of course. And
Diabolus,
as you were saying, kind of the underdogs coming up into the next match, and then XL.
Take a quick look at this player though. This is such a perfect ult coming out. So. It's not quite available the flash yet for Jarnen, but the ult was perfectly timed when he came out, and it manages to hit him and Kasing as well. Pretty flawless, but then he just ended up dying, and XL obviously did take that game, but it shows Eminem definitely had some life.
Really, and I think that it's safe to say that if you compare it against the game yesterday that XL played, where they really showed against Barrage that besides a team fight here and there that didn't go as planned, there wasn't really a lot that it felt like Barrage could do. Whereas Eminem, you saw some moments of life. You saw some plays that did work out. Only Angel, of course, coming up really big on the Aatrox once again. But in the end, it wasn't enough. And XL felt like they always, even when there was a counter, they always got the upper hand in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, there was that one play where I thought that Eminem were going to find it back. And then just the Heimer Yuumi was too much. I think if they didn't have those champions, the game could have looked more favorable for Eminem.
If they didn't have Jarnen on Heimerdinger.
Yeah, I think maybe ban that away and you might have a fighting chance. But I think That's what Diabolus need to do. I 100% expect to see that ban first rotation because if they give that up, XL win.
To be fair, though, I think in the game against Barrage, it was only banned in the second rotation, and they didn't pick it up early. So maybe, you know, they thought we can.
We're like, we don't need it, and then they're like, you know what, we might as well use it, and now they're like, let's just abuse it every game. But
yeah,
I think they now coming after that game, they have to expect, or maybe it could be a situation where they wanted to save the Heimer pick until they went up against a team they saw as a threat. Eminem obviously did make it to playoffs last split, did make it to the top 4, and actually tied in positions with XL. So I can understand them seeing them as a threat and thinking you're feeling a Heimer wrath.
Yeah, you're good enough. You can face our Heimer. You know, like the bad guy, like can only fight me if you're really up to the task.
Yeah, it's like several layers of it.
Yeah.
So and, we've seen the final form of XL, which is the Heimer, the Yawning.
Yeah, I mean, Kasing's Yumi was also nothing to scoff at. Just in general, that bot lane was just devastating. But as you were saying, it's just the entire... Because Sendo, I know, last season didn't have the most amazing split, but has been looking incredibly solid this far as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of moments there's still been questions, but definitely better. I've got to see how the split plays out. Only Angel solo killed him. I mean, you can make the argument that he's on Aatrox. Aatrox is busted, but still, you can avoid that from happening. So still got to see more from him, and if he can be the consistent one, because now you're up against a team like Diabolus, and the strong part of them, I got to feel, is those solo laners. You need to be able to stand up to them, because bot lane, so far for Diabolus, Dragdosh has been happy to farm up on Sivir. So I'd like to see them pick something that's going to stop that from happening, or deny the Sivir away from him. You can't pick the Heimer to deny the Sivir, because if Diabolus let Heimer open, they're just, you know, trolling. I feel like they're going to ban Heimer, and you go, okay, they're ban Heimer, we'll ban Sivir, or we're going to pick something that's going to absolutely brutalize that Sivir, and then we can stop them from just going, okay, we'll get to this point of the game, and then, oh, we outscale, because that's what Dragdog's been doing.
We've seen some flexibility from XL as well, when they swapped around Special and Yarden in their match yesterday, so a lot of the flex picks with the Gragas, Yasuo bot lane, so they're definitely not above that. Now, let's focus a little bit on Diabolus, because we've seen some really great plays where they're able to just take control of the game, have some great team fighting, punish the mistakes of our opponents, but simultaneously, here and there, 2v2 that don't really work out, some early aggression that gets punished. What do you think Diabolus need to do here to take on the giant that is XL?
I want to see them have an easy to execute composition, because I feel like in the 2 previous games, the reason they took so long was because there was difficulty in it. In game 1, they needed to find flanks in the team fight for it to work effectively, and it's not always a given you'll get them, especially against a team like XL. And then in game 2, they had to win early really hard. And yes, they still have the Sivir as a late game insurance, but I just feel like pick a composition where it's really not hard to execute, because against a team like XL, if you pick something a bit too tricky, they will punish you. And if you're relying on your Elise taking over the game, I think you may well struggle.
Which is what we saw last game. Hopefully we'll be getting into those picks and bans shortly. Do you have any strong thoughts about who you think is going to... You think the underdog is going to take it in Diabolus, or do you think XL are going to sweep once again and take on Fnatic in our Tower Challenge tonight? Let us know. Tweet at us, hashtag UKLC. Always more than happy to see what you guys think. Now, I got to agree with you there. I think Diabolus, it's an uphill battle. And it's also, for me, kind of a moment where we see how these teams match up, because the Mars vs Diabolus was fairly one-sided, but not as much as we've seen in the future, or in the past rather, as we have loaded into the finals pick and ban here. The Yumi immediately taken away here, and don't be fooled, it is indeed Diabolus taking on XL here, so no worries there. And immediately, Kasing's Yumi not going to be in the table, and if we don't see a Heimer ban here, I would be very surprised. Yeah,
I feel like you can ban the Yumi, that's one thing, but you have to ban the Heimer again. There's both of those on the table, which are going to be an issue. Oh, look at the Aurelia being taken away from the side of Connor.
There we go.
Yeah, very quickly going to see the Heimer banned away. Apologies for the graphic being incorrect. We'll get that sorted shortly. Our production is just working on it right now. Second ban for XL. I mean, they banned things like the Olaf in their first game, and then the second game they chose not to go for that. The Sivir was a big one, and having seen the Heimer and the Yumi off the table, makes sense that they take that one off the cards. So Dragdot not in as comfortable position just to scale up and wave clear. The Yasuo following up is fine, but it leaves a lot of the traditional power picks like things like the Aatrox still on the table, Sejuani still on the cards. Karma, absolutely. So XL now going into their third ban. That was still the first pick. What they're concerned about, at least, was a big pick for PFI in the last game. And also the Kennen for Khan is pretty monstrous.
We've also, of course, seen the Gragas from PFI, also very comfortable on that, and the Aatrox will be taken away here, so... And there's, as you were saying, a lot of power picks still available here, even with the Aatrox getting taken out. Something like the Karma can just get picked up. Also, something that we haven't talked about today yet, it was big yesterday, is the Sonar. Now, wasn't successful in the end when Enclave tried to pull it out, but it is still a power pick, but it will be that Sejuani.
Yeah, I like to see it picked up. It's a strong pick in this meta, and if you have melee top lane or mid laner, it's really powerful, really easy to set the ganks. Does mean, however, that you give over the next rotation to XL, and now it's a situation where if they want to pick up something powerful for their bot lane, they have 2 picks in this rotation to do so.
Yeah, and thus far there has been a lot of focus also on that Lux, which we saw Shogun get some great plays with last game. Wasn't enough in the end though, and now Kasing probably is going to try and take a swing at that, although it is of course somewhat flexible. We've seen it mostly in that support role.
Yeah, and then Taxa potentially looking at this Olaf once again. He had such a successful game on it before, and that was up against the Elise. Yes, Olaf does fine against the Elise post 6, but early it's who finds who. We did see him get caught out on the top side against the Sejuani. I feel like you're pretty comfortable in that matchup. Interesting we don't see the Trundle again into it, so no possibility of stealing away all those stats, but the Halo Blade's adaptation has limited that effectiveness. Cell finished their first rotation now because of Diabolus. Could be in a position where they want to take a strong bot lane, and they are looking potentially towards that Ezreal for Dragdar. Not as much pure scaling as the Sivir. You kind of need to hit those spikes in the mid game and make an impact then. Now will be the question of what will they take to round out the composition for this first few picks.
And I gotta say though, I'd like the Olaf, but I do feel, especially if you don't have the backup of something like a Yuumi or a Karma that really enables it to also do a little bit more in the mid to late game, it does fall off really hard. And instead it will be the Nico, a high priority pick that we've seen a lot of this far.
Yeah, and we saw XL pick up, and then we saw ban against them. So the fact that Diabolus denied it here is pretty strong. It can absolutely be flexed. Not in all 3 lanes as of now, because I don't think you're going to flex the Ezreal everywhere else. So it could go mid or top. Does mean they are not going to have a melee top, melee mid laner set up for the Sejuani, but if you land that route, it's very easy for the ball lane to follow up on.
Yeah, and also the lockdown is still there if Sejuani can get on top. And the Victor, we've only seen it banned once.
Against Diva.
Exactly, and besides that, it hasn't really been a high priority pick, of course, if you compare it to the early days of the top lane Victor when it was so incredibly dominant.
This could be very much a flex. It could go top, it could go mid, it could go bot for Hjarnan. A lot of flexibility. We'll see the Karma taken off the table, so that's not going to be an option to go in any lane for Diabolus. I feel like they're going to struggle, because I feel like you can look to potentially ban things away from Hjarnan. They have looked towards Isaiah, but he hasn't shown very many cards so far. He played Corki in the mid lane, and he played Heimer, which has already been banned away. So in terms of what 80 carries he's happy to play, you're limited in terms of options. You may be scared of something like a Caitlyn because of the extended range, but I feel like I wouldn't be super surprised to see Hjarnan come in on this Victor with a Victor Lux bot lane, because you land that route, you follow up the gravity field, pretty effective.
Yeah, and of course, there's also always the possibility, what we saw yesterday, that they swap around special.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just throw in there. So I think against XL must be really hard to draft against, because they seem to have so many avenues through which they can go. They can put Hjarnan on an actual carry. They can put him on a lot of mages. They can put special in the bot lane. As let's take a look and see what the next ban is going to be here. And looking what kind of compositions we're going to see here around it. And I think we skipped a ban here for XL. Varus, though, taken off the table there, so...
Does mean Ashe is still on the table. If you want set up for that Lux level 6, Varus is great for it, but perfectly viable to use Ashe for a similar situation. They see the second ban missed by XL, I believe. And now it looks like Hjarnan is flicking over a bunch of 80 carries, deciding what he will take bot lane, but still just a horror for now. And he has actually locked in a Lucian.
There we go.
So locking in a pick for himself. They will save their final counter pick, potentially for Sendo or Special. That means they have Lucian, Lux in the bot lane. Diabolus very quick to consider Nautilus as an answer to that.
Yeah, just trying to get on top of that Lux, making sure that even if the binding hits, your Dredge line comes through, and then you knock her out as fast as you can. Now, the Lucian is a pick that has kind of waned popularity. and it really feels like, unless you go for a very late game oriented build, you need to hit that early mid-game power spike, because if you don't, it's going to be really hard for you to have an impact later on.
It'll be interesting to see what build he goes here, because obviously we've seen the Blade Rune King into Black Cleaver, great mid-game. There's Blade Rune King into Essence Reaver, which scales a bit better, and then there's also just the Essence Reaver first, which scales very well. Obviously, you lack the damage on the Blade first. And actually, seeing the Crocodile come out from Kakan, so wanting some laning presence up against Sendo, but there are still things available. You could potentially take something like a Kennen, which is a good matchup into that and would prove a lot of problems for Kakan. It's now up to Sendo for what he wants to play in this matchup, assuming that Victor is going mid lane.
I do like, though, that from Diabolus, we once again see a composition that if they get to a team fighting stage, it is looking very comfortable. It will be the Gnar into the Renaxania, so similar problem. As long as you can stay away from that slice and dice and don't get stunned up, the harass is going to be huge. So looking at both of these compositions rounded out, what do you feel like Diabolus need to do here in the early to mid game if they want to stand up against XL?
I think they need to survive the pressure to some degree. I think there is an element of scaling coming out from XL with a Victor in the mid lane, but for the most part, I'm really confident in the team fight coming out from Diabolus in the later stages. Their front line is massive. They have these two carries that can provide constant poke and pick potential. My only concern is their DPS does lack a bit, so in the longer team fights, they might struggle, but they're up against a Gnar and an Olaf, who aren't always the tankiest members, because obviously Gnar doesn't always have his Mega. Olaf does fall off later on, and when you have the Crocodile, Sejuani, and the Nautilus, I feel like Diabolus are going to have the edge later on to a degree, but I think XL have that early pressure. I think Lucian Lux is going to be having the priority in bot lane. I think that in the top, the Gnar is going to have priority. I think they're going to look to make plays in the early game and then just really take over the game in the mid game.
So if you compare the City games yesterday, we did see XL do very well if they get that proactive early game, and they've been showing that in the last 2 games. However, in the games against Barrage, it were those team fights that at times felt a little bit risky.
Yeah.
And looking at the composition from Diabolus here, you gotta be a little bit afraid of if they can find similar mistakes that XL showed yesterday, maybe they can crawl back.
Absolutely, and I think the scaling isn't clear-cut, but I think if Diabolus managed to find flanks or good ways to get onto the backline, if you make that Victor vulnerable, it's really easy to find team fights later on in the game. I mean, it's hard to find the flanks, but once you've got them, you should win out on those team fights, especially when you have things like the Sejuani. And the Renexian should just be able to blow through any sort of resistance he has, and it's really the burden of XL to make things happen in the early and mid game.
Of course, with something like the Olaf and the Lucian Lux box lane, there is plenty of opportunity for that to happen in the early game. So all in all, I think we should have an explosive early game like we've seen thus far every single time from XL. And that really bodes well for the finals as well. Now, Diabolus, I feel like they're also taking somewhat of a similar approach as they did yesterday, where they go for a composition that just scales well into these team fights, and then just take it slow, try to hold off the offense, and then go from there. As we already see the 5-man stack here, making sure that they don't get invaded upon.
Yeah, because we've seen so many wards being placed down on these Raptors. If Yana does go for it, he will be on the receiving end of a hook, and it's going to not be a fun time for him at all. All 5 members, I believe, were in that rush. You have to suspect something's up when you've seen no one else on the map at all. I'm hoping for his sake that he respects that.
Yeah, maybe a late invade if they want to go for that, but it looks like instead they will just be pathing. Fury getting a little bit cute there with the Sejuani, and does look like PFI actually will start at his red side. And we see the question mark pings going down and moves back immediately. Then the surprise is going to be spoiled somewhat. Going to go for that red side clear, as we've seen junglers mostly do recently with how strong that experience is. But it looks like the late invade here from XL. No vision available for Diabolus. They don't seem to be expecting this as Taxa moves in. PFI already taken low as they get a lot of damage on Dragdog. That is first blood already for XL. We talked about this early game, and the Lucian already had Taxa going to pick up the red buff here. Last time he got a triple buff, and it looks like that situation might repeat itself here.
It's just really disrespectful, I've got to be honest, from Diabolus. Just sat in that bush for so long and then back off and not even ward it. And it means PFI had so little information going forward. He's actually going to try and steal away Tax's red, but a gank's actually coming out from Tax in the mid lane, and I think PFI is just backing off. You are really not in a good situation right now.
No, he's level 1. And, you know, Sejuani, early gym play is okay, but she is going to get taken really low. And I love the pathing here from Taxa as well. Knows what PFI must have been thinking.
He's got the Raptors as well in the way. So he hasn't just taken the red buff, he got the red and the Raptors and was able to head back up. This has not been a good start for Sejuani, but XL are doing great, and it all came off that late invade.
Really did, and as you were saying, Diabolus not leaving any vision there, because we saw the sweepers coming out, and by the time they were aware of it, Dragdar was already dead. There was simply nothing that they could really do there. Had there been some vision, even if they had been sweeped out, they could have at least have tried to do something, even with how dangerous that early game is from XL, but instead giving up priority, a jungler that is in a really rough spot now with a lot of experience in the bottom side jungle gone, and XL taking control of this game starting at the first minute here.
Yeah, really good play so far, and Sendo able to evade quite a bit of the damage there despite the stun coming out from Khan. Not a fun time for Nectar in this lane. Really needs a gank to relieve pressure, but right now PFI is so far behind, I feel like there's no real avenue for him to impact the map. If he runs into Taxa, who is now level 4 to his level 2, he will lose.
Because Taxa also going once again for the Conqueror Olaf, meaning that whatever little resistances PFI have are not going to matter nearly as much, will get shredded to even faster. Taxa doesn't even care that he shows, just knows that he's so much stronger as PFI is starting to do his crux. We see the pings going down as well. And that's really the only thing that PFI can do here on that Sejuani.
Is try and get back in the game by just clearing some camps. It's not been a good start so far for Diabolus.
And even here, as Khan tries to go in for a trade, does find the Empowered Q, so the heal is there, but as you were saying, already at not even 5 minutes, a 1k gold lead here for XL on the back of some great early invade and some great jungle pathing afterwards. And you know, Yarnan hasn't backed yet, but you gotta imagine once that Lucian goes back with a kill already in the pocket, the pressure from the bot lane is gonna be immense.
Absolutely, and the thing is, there's no great wave clear coming out from Ezreal. The Nautilus has to walk up to contribute, and it's a struggle when you're behind. It's not really a good situation for any lane right now, especially when you look at the success discrepancies across the board. 20 in the jungle, 7 in the top lane, around the same in the mid, and then although in the bot lane it's smaller, that kill difference is going to be significant.
Definitely. As, after that early invade, not a lot of action yet, and we do see PFI moving towards topside though. Will get spotted out by the ward as Sendo. He's almost Mega Naso. He's not too afraid here. Goes in 1v2 with no backup from anyone whatsoever. Just takes that wall back.
That's how weak PFI is. He was so spooked by the potential that Taxa could be there. He just had to run away.
Immediately, there was simply nothing he could do. Great trade though there from Kakan. That's going to feel good, but as you were saying with how weak PFI is, he's currently still level 3, whereas Taxis is 2 levels and 25 CS up here. And yes, Sejuani's skills well, but if you fall behind this much this early as the Heathen on the receiving end of a very bad trade, it's going to take such a long time.
Absolutely, it's not a good situation to be in, and if you're on a weaker jungler, normally the worst case scenario is that you just farm up and you don't have much impact in the early levels, but to get crushed this hard, it's not a great look. And right now PFI is absolutely in the back foot. Taxis at level 6, he's still level 4. This Olaf is so powerful right now. Anywhere he shows up, he can just have a huge impact.
And if there wasn't enough, the first dragon of the game will be that coveted Infernal Dragon, perhaps the most popular of all the elemental drakes, as they all move in. Bot lane already pushed in, mid lane's pushed in, and I have a hard time seeing how Diabolus is really going to contest this dragon here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Infernal is something that can make the scaling more difficult when Diabolus are looking for the later stages of the game. It's not super clear cut. They have win conditions later that are going to be favorable for them if they can find the flank, which Khan has shown he is very good at before, but if you start handing over dragons and a massive goal lead to XL, it's just not going to be possible.
As you were saying, the CS leads across the board also just slowly but steadily increasing with similar numbers in the mid and bot lane. And the dragon being taken without that much to do as Kakan gets knocked into the wall there by Sendo. Goes through the trade, Dominus is activated, gets stunned, and Sendo hops away. Nice trade up there by Khan, because I feel like I got a little bit worried there when he got knocked in as the Infernal Drake forced attacks her.
Yeah, definitely looked a bit scary, but the dominance keeps him alive. Is going to mean a trade of ults. I think that does favor Sendo a bit, but Khan has a lot more sustain, so able to heal up into a pretty comfortable position. Both top laners just showing they're not scared of a little fight, and Dragdor very low on mana here. TP is about to come up, so may look for a recall after this cannon. I think Yarnan's going to block it.
He's not letting him have anything. Why would he? Yarnan, by the way, still hasn't backed, and neither has Dragdor. Everyone in the bot lane just taking it slow.
This actually favors Shannon quite a bit. Obviously, he'd have more gold when he recalls, so actually, Sendo might look for something here.
He's going to proc that Maganar, maybe try to get on top of Kakan, who does seem to respect it. Minuwave is pushing towards him, but Taxa's making his way up top as well as PFI. I got to say, though, after that incredible deficit that they got early, we've now doubled the CS here on Taxa. Once he hits that Glacial Prison, he is still going to be somewhat useful, but Taxa is making his way into PFI's jungle here, not wanting to let him have any of that, as Kakan once again trading with Sendo.
He's got no dash here. He could really be in trouble. Nock can just chase him down.
Flash is available as well. Sendo goes in for the flash, and the third proc is enough, and that is the second kill there picked up here for XL. Sendo with the 1v1 in the top lane.
Yeah, finding a great solo kill. Just disrespect coming out from Kakan. Didn't have that ult as a free out, and now dragged out again trying to recall. Actually, if I looking for this.
PFI finds the Glacial Prison in the dash over the wall. Special taken low. Furak can't join anymore, and they just barely don't have enough damage as Special just calmly walks off. Great use of the cleanse there, and imagine if Furak had a little bit more health or a little bit more mana in that fight.
Yeah, could have made all of the difference there. And still they're denying the back of Dragon. Actually, great hook comes out.
There is the flashing gate, and Yarnan is immediately demolished. Kasing doesn't even get the time to heal as the damage comes through from the barrage there, from the Ezreal, and the Heathen still chasing on. Kasing, though, is going to walk out. Still is the flash and heal available as well. And while PFI was pathing towards bot, he decides the batter of it.
Great punish coming out from Heathen. Okay, can actually look at this. He has Dominus.
It's continuous action here. Sendo has no flash, used this aggressively earlier on, and is the return goal going to come through? The Dominus is slowly ticking down as Sendo tries to get away. Will get picked up in the end there as Kakan finds a return solo kill, evening up things here in the top lane.
And this is the issue consistently that Sendo has had. It's not that he can't play at a high level. He absolutely can, but it's the consistency. He got that great solo kill onto Kakan, and then he disrespects him by overstaying and trades back in return. And in the bot lane, just honestly credit to Heathen. It was a great engage. So confident to go for the flash, and then predicted the dash from Yarnan. Considering you're playing against a bot lane of this caliber, to have the confidence to go for this play, clearly Yarnan didn't expect it.
To be fair though, Yarnan went back and bought a Blade of the Rune King.
That's a pretty good item.
That's, for a first back, that's it's about as good as it gets.
Absolutely. There's going to be some decent damage behind those Mystic shots now the Sheen has been picked up, but Dragdor definitely not in as strong as a power spike as Shannon is right now.
And even though Excel gave up a little bit there with some kills being picked up by Diabolus, they are still firmly in control of the map as they will be taking up Shelly here. Special just making his way over, trying to help Taxa just a little bit. And nothing that they can do. And with still 3 minutes left before the plates drop, I gotta imagine that we're gonna see it drop down somewhere just to make sure that they pick up even more of that free money that is on the turrets. As Kakan goes in for a trade once again, but Taxa is there. Sendo is gonna go Negador, does get stunned. The stun look comes through, and the Ragnarok gets popped. Not even necessary as Taxa and Sendo take down Kakan, and are going to pick up a lot of plates here.
Yeah, really confident play coming out, and the fact that Taxa flashed in to secure the damage in the stun lock, very effective there. They will get a lot of plates in this tower. I think they have just dropped the Herald, so they might even take the whole thing. It's going to be pretty close, but definitely cementing Sendo into a firm lead in this matchup.
And even better is that we see that Taxa does go for the back there, trying to give as much of the gold to Sendo there, although I do think that he got split in the end anyway.
Due to the Herald taking it, it does end up being split, but you've definitely given Sendo a big lead in this matchup, which he tried to get himself but threw away. And actually, the ult misses on a special. Some great moves means he won't be punished, and his cleanse is up soon, so PFI unable to capitalize on that summoner being down.
Yeah, and we see Kakan going in once again. Sendo, has he overstepped again? Almost gets the Maganar form, and Kakan doesn't want to disrespect it. Has the Dominus available. And with the grasp of the Dying Proc and Meganar coming in, I don't think Kakan can really do anything. And now Excel, the pressure is starting to become too much here for Diabolus as the bot lane turret falls as well.
Yeah, just constant pressure coming out from the side of Excel. They get pressure top, they get pressure bot, and Diabolus are starting to crack there. Over 4,500 gold behind. Second dragon is up for grabs, and Excel absolutely going to take it.
It's going to be that Ocean Drake, meaning more sustained for the likes of Special. We're seeing attacks as they burn through their mana pools. And Excel, we talked about the early game coming into the game, and now 12 minutes in, we're seeing the exact same thing happen. And now the question for me is, last few games, they were able to consistently keep control, barring some small team fight overextensions. Are we going to see those repeated here, or is Diabolus just not going to be able to deal with the continuous pressure that Excel seems to be putting out?
I mean, that's going to be the question, because I feel like a lot of Excel's comp isn't going to be as significant later on. The Olaf will start to fall off. The Lucian, his short range is going to make him a bit of a difficult champion to play later on. Victor will absolutely be strong, but he has to be careful here.
There's the Heathen once again. The Gravity Field does find Furai, but the Pop Blossom finds Special. He tries to walk off, uses the Cleanse as well, but that will be a kill going over to Furai. As the Heathen, he's been instrumental in picking up these kills. Great run here as well.
Yeah, and it is a great kill to pick up, but unfortunately no objectives will come as a result. So it is definitely a positive play for Diabolus, but no real reward yet. And that's the thing, is that they need to continue to punish XL if they want to get these later stages where the champions right now who seem unstoppable, like this Olaf, like this Lucian, like this Gnar, aren't going to be as significant.
So Sando has gone for the Frozen Mallet first here.
That's a split push build. That is absolutely, I'm going to bully this Renekton in the later stages build. And right now, it's not too much of an issue for the farm, but eventually will. And actually, Engage comes in on the Kasing.
The Fi goes in, use the Glacial Prison very effectively as Kasing tries to get off. The Colin gets thrown down, and they need to disengage, but the Heathen goes back in on top of Taxa. He pops the Ragnarok, and even though the laser gets him low, the Heathen walks away unscathed.
Honestly, really disrespectful from Kasing just to stand there. And it was a bit of a misplay. Fury didn't quite connect the root on the back end, and it would have meant his death, but the shielding and the healing coming out was enough to keep him alive. The
Fi moving forward here as Taxa is caught by the roots, but immediately keeps on hitting this turret as Excel tries to get yet another objective. There comes the Arcane Barrage, and Drekdar does disincentivize Excel from moving on here as Kakan once again locked in an eternal struggle with Sando. He tanks a turret shot but gets knocked into the wall. PFI is making his way up top, but this time Sando disengages in time.
It's a frustrating situation to have to use your ult just to keep Sando at bay. The Gnar ult did get the cooldown reduced in a recent patch, so he's happy just to ult whenever he wants to. And it makes Kakan in a very difficult position, and this was the lanes that I saw strength coming out from Diabolus with this Renekton, with this Sejuani in the early levels, but they didn't find the momentum, and the deficit that PFI found himself in meant that Sendo was really just able to take off.
Really has, as now it's only the mid lane turrets still standing for Diabolus. Their top and bot lane turrets have already been felled here. And this doesn't feel like we're only 15 minutes in game with how much of Diabolus' base has already crumbled. And as you were saying, Excel still firmly in control. 4k gold up here at almost 16 minutes. 2 dragons picked up, and with how strong they're still looking, I don't know if Diabolus can even contest the next one either. We see Teleport coming down there from Furay. They try to desperately hold on to this mid lane turret.
Yeah, but it's so low in HP. It's going to take a miracle to keep this one alive. It looks like they may have one.
At least for this wave, Beyond and goes in for the final auto attack. The root comes through on Kakan, and he's taken low. Needs to flash immediately. Doesn't have Dominus, but the root on Yana means that they can get some damage in, but they need to disengage afterwards. Even with how good that was looking, XL seem unstoppable here as Kakan needs to back out. It can't really get anything done in this fight.
Absolutely. And the saving grace is that the level discrepancy isn't too high as of yet. The gold is, but they're keeping fairly close in levels. If they find the right team fight with the right CC and the right people, they could still make this work. But for now, Diabolus definitely struggling in this matchup with Kakan. You have no flash, you have no ult.
Yeah, as Sando might have overstepped a little bit here as the Heathen makes his way, but the world will spot him out. And Dominus is now available, but I don't think Sando's going to fall for that one again. A big wave being built up here on the top side as we see the rest of the team sees yet another turret, and Excel seem to not want to relent any of this pressure as Taxa moves forward, has the safety of Ragnarok, so even if he will get CC'd, he can get up fairly safely, and the Dragon is about to spawn. Taxa steps far forward, pops to Ragnarok, tries to get out as the Heathen goes for a lot of damage, but it is not enough to really stick. Yarnan dashes away from the root, and that's going to be all, at least for now. We see some positioning here for Diabolus. They seem to want to contest this as Kakan holds his own against Sendo. Yeah,
and the Sejuani ult wasn't able to find the mark coming out from PFI, and it meant that essentially XL could just walk away. It was a trade of ults. In the top side, off camera, Kakan did have to use his Dominus just to clear out a wave, and it shows the amount of pressure that's being brought down by Sendo. And the thing is, he hasn't backed in quite a time. It's going to be scary if he is able to pick up, a full Black Cleaver off his next recall.
As Taxa and Yarnan clear out the bot side jungle, pick up yet another Ocean Drake for Excel here. And as you were saying, Orcs, Diabolus, they're holding on to the inners, but even that one is already gone in the top side with how much pressure Sando has consistently been able to put out. And the engages that Diabolus is looking for, as we see PFI move and the Heathen move forward time and time again, but they can't seem to really land on Excel.
Yeah, absolutely, and we do see the Essence Reaver picked up by Shannon in a really strong position. Dragda hasn't even finished that Manamune yet, and is certainly not that close to stacking it up. A big item disparity, and right now XL know the Baron may well be the next objective on the card, so they're starting to set up vision for that already.
4 turrets against 0. There is a lot of standing gold here available for Diabolus. If they can find a favorable team fight, if they can pick someone off and try to force something off the back of that, there is a lot of gold for them to be picked up here.
Absolutely, there is.
But they need to actually win a team fight,
yeah.
Which
5,000 gold difference, and oh, Heathen might caught out here. No flash, he's coming up very soon.
Yeah, getting hit by the binding is a death sentence if you're not Taxa, and the Heathen a little bit too far forward, gets taken down there.
I think overconfident with his Mobies. His flash did just come up, so if he'd wait a few seconds longer, may not have been able to catch him out. But right now, XL now have that man advantage, will look to have even more control of this Baron area, and it is spawning in 30 seconds.
Sphere is maybe looking for something. PFI on it as well. Tanks us some damage. Needs to be careful. Use the Arctic Sword to dash away. But Special is in hot pursuit, trying to go through the jungle while Fure tries to hold off on this turret on his own. Dragdar, though, making his way over there. But yet another turret gets claimed by XL. PFI getting taken incredibly low. Nice Glacial Prison keeps him alive, at least for now, as Special finds the laser after a great cleanse. Card moves in and tries to get the kill, but gets pulled back.
Special's untouchable.
Special still hasn't died somehow as Fure goes for the stopwatch, but he's stuck in the middle of everyone, and there is another kill. Focusing, Yarnan picks up yet another kill, and it's looking excellent here for XL.
Yeah, it just looks so one-sided. Special's able to chase PFI, not just through his whole jungle, but under a tower, and still manages to get away. Absolute confidence coming out from this roster, and they are showing up and looking like the team we expected them to be last split.
And you got to say, you see Diabolus, they keep looking for these engagements. It's not a team that's just waiting for XL to make their move, but every single time that they try to go for something, XL just not only expect it, but then turn it around on them as the Baron is started here. And I don't see a way in which Diabolus can really contest it. We see some things going down, but I think by the time PFI makes his way over there, that's going to be long gone.
Yeah, he is running over, but it's going to be way too late. Actually gets rooted as well. Sendo's looking for him. He's going to be slowed.
Whoa, the Arcane Barrage was fairly close. PFI, though, standing very far forward, will get taken out here as well as the tankiest member on Diabolus. There's no match whatsoever for XL. They pick up the Baron buff, and they're not looking to stop anytime soon with their pushing. That really has been going on ever since this game has started, Orcs.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to start knocking on the doors of the base, taking down that inhibitor turret. The Heathen alone cannot do very much, and it looks like they're just going to have to give this inhibitor up.
And no contest coming through here from the Diabolus. They really need that 5-man roster. They need to find the perfect Glacial Prison, a 5-man Pop Blossom or some other miracle, because if they don't find those with a 11k gold lead here at 22 minutes for XL, it's looking simply incredible. And coming into this game, we talked about the gold lead, or rather the early game lead that XL always seem able to build up. And in this game, they've really come out swinging in full force.
Yeah, absolutely, by all means. And it's difficult to see Diabolus' way back in the game. I think they need to stall out this Baron buff. But even after that, there's so much time they need to buy before they're going to be strong enough. They need to have that Ezreal stacked up and putting out damage. They need to find CC on the right targets. And it's not always an easy ask because Tax has been excellent on the front line. And with that Ragnarok, he's just not viable to try and take out. He is so tanky right now and putting out a ton of damage.
I think there's at least one item discrepancy on everyone besides the mid lane for XL. Like, it's just collectively so far ahead in terms of gold here that it's so hard to do. The engage does come through on Taxi, who immediately pops the Ragnarok and stays alive for a very long time. And the Heathen is already gone as Kakan finally finds his way into the backline. Will Special finally die? No, but Yarn will, as we see Kakan getting blown up as a result. Immediately PFI tries to tank as much as he can, but Sando wasn't even there. He chases after Fury, can't find him though, as Dragdar and Fury try to hold on for dear life, but with another wave and only Yarn taken down, it's not looking good for Diabolus.
Yeah, 2 members left to defend. It is the 2 carries, but they are going to struggle in this situation against 4 members of XL. Still so strong, and they will take that mid inhibitor, head straight over to the bot one, and it may well be the end of the game for the side of Diabolus. Spawn timer's coming in soon, but I think XL want this game over now.
Yeah, XL not relenting yet again. Sendo has the Mega Gnar available if he can find an opportunity. And the first Nexus turret has already fallen by the time that the rest arrive. PFI goes in and they try to go for a Heal Mary play. Can Diabolus hold on though? Or is XL going to face Fnatic Rising? There is the Mega Gnar, but doesn't really find as much as they were looking for, as the Nexus turrets are just barely standing. There goes the first one, and the second one is sure to follow soon. PFI already taking down incredibly low. As Sendo moves forward, there goes the Heathen, he's taken down, and they don't even need to kill the rest of Diabolus, as the Nexus is wide open. And XL are going to take on Fnatic Rising with a dominating performance here in the final of the bracket.
And they absolutely cemented what some people predicted, that they were on the strongest side of the bracket because they just did not make that look close at all.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. Just an incredible performance from XL, and it started by the second minute at 1 minute 30.
Yep.
The first buff spawns, they walk into the jungle with 3 people, and from that point on, it didn't feel like Diabolus could really do it. And if they tried, which credit to them, there were moments, but they never really got back the control of their game.
No, absolutely not. And it felt like once the tempo was there, XL just pushed and pushed and pushed. They were there when they wanted to make rotations. When they wanted to pressure towers, they were there first. It was just a complete struggle, and props to them. They're now going to go against our tower champions, Fnatic, in the next game.
Yeah, Diabolus, good showing, 2 wins in your first week, but XL really on a whole nother level. And now the big question of tonight is, XL's already looking great. We have similar jackets, don't we?
We do.
We have almost similar shirts as well. We're really synced up.
We're matching. That's
very nice.
Yeah, well, we did coordinate, so it's
I mean, yeah, we always, chat up, beginning to show what you're going to wear, what am I going to wear.
What are we going to,
Yeah.
what are we going to talk about on the cast?
XL versus Fnatic Rising. We've seen how strong XL already are looking, but the big question is, how is Fnatic Rising going to do here tonight?
Who knows?
Who knows?
That's why it's hard to say. They're a pretty solid team. I'm unsure how well they're going to do because they have changed their jungler, and he was a really relevant part of the team. That's what I'm unsure about, because NG, he is a good player by all means. He is more aggressive than Dan, and I've spoken to Prospect about this. He is pretty solid across the board, but Dan pulled a lot of the weight for Fnatic. I've spoken to Prospect about this. He was the shot caller. He did a lot of the macro plays for them, and he was obviously a really powerful part of their team. For them to have lost him, it's going to take time for them to recuperate, and that's my big concern.
Especially because we talked about XL last split, how they were very strong, but it wasn't really the performance that people were looking for. And I think Fnatic Rising was also a team that it took a little while for them to really get going and get into the dominant form in which we saw them at the back end of the split, because by the time they really got rolling, it didn't really feel like there was anyone who could stop them.
And I absolutely agree. I think that it took them time last time. They obviously lost the first tower challenge up against XL in the first split. Actually, no, I believe, XL got it the first split. They won their head-to-head in the finals, so by all means, XL look like a very strong team right now. It's going to have to be a very strong form of Fnatic Rising if they want to top them, but we're going to see if that can happen next.
Who's going to take it, Fnatic or Excel? We're going to take a short break and then we'll be back with the final game of the night, the Tower Challenge. Fnatic Rising taking on Excel.